What if I told you that Google just handed app developers a superpower, and most of them have no idea it exists? I'm talking about Gemini for Firebase, and today we're breaking down exactly what it does, why it matters, and how it's about to change the way apps get built. Look, Firebase has been Google's go-to tool for developers for years now. It handles databases, authentication, hosting, all that backend stuff that normally gives developers headaches. But here's the thing. Firebase was powerful, but it wasn't intelligent. You still had to write a ton of code, debug everything manually, and basically be a mind reader when something broke. Enter Gemini. Gemini is Google's AI model, right? You've probably heard of it. ChatGPT's competition. But Google didn't just slap Gemini on a Firebase and call it a day. They actually integrated it in a way that makes developers' lives significantly easier. And I want to walk you through exactly what that looks like in the real world. First, let's talk about code generation. Imagine you're building an app and you need to set up a complex database structure. Normally, you'd spend hours writing the rules, testing them, rewriting them because security is hard. With Gemini for Firebase, you can describe what you want in plain English. You say something like, I need a database where users can only see their own posts and admins can see everything. Gemini doesn't just write the code for you. It writes it right, with security in mind. That's not a small thing. Security vulnerabilities and Firebase rules can expose user data to the entire internet. Having an AI that understands security best practices built into your development process? That's huge. But code generation is just the opening act. The real magic happens with debugging. You know that feeling when something in your app breaks and you have no idea why. You're staring at logs that look like alphabet soup. You've got errors that don't make sense. You're Googling at midnight, pulling your hair out. Gemini changes that game. It can analyze your Firebase logs, understand what went wrong, and actually explain it to you in human terms. Not just error code 403, but your database rules are blocking this query because the user doesn't have read permission on that path. It can even suggest fixes. There's also something called Gemini in the Firebase console. This is a chatbot that lives right inside the Firebase dashboard. You can ask it questions about your project in real time. Why is my function timing out? How do I set up cloud storage security rules? What's the best way to structure data for this use case? Instead of leaving Firebase, opening a new tab, searching Stack Overflow for the next 30 minutes, you just ask Gemini right there. It knows the context of your project, your current setup, and can give you answers tailored to what you're actually building. Now, let's get into the productivity multiplier effect. Think about a junior developer. They're new to Firebase. They don't know all the patterns and best practices yet. That usually means they're slower, they make more mistakes, and someone senior has to review their work constantly. But with Gemini helping them along the way, suggesting better patterns, catching potential issues before they become problems, that junior developer becomes productive way faster. The same applies to experienced developers working on unfamiliar parts of Firebase. You can move faster with less friction. There's also the mobile app angle. Firebase is huge for mobile development. Whether you're building iOS, Android, or both, Firebase handles a lot of the heavy lifting. Gemini can generate boilerplate code for Firebase integration in your mobile app. Setting up authentication, cloud messaging, crash reporting. Gemini can scaffold all of that. Not perfectly every time, but well enough that you're starting from a solid foundation instead of a blank page. Now, I want to be real with you about the limitations, because this isn't magic. Gemini for Firebase is a tool, not a replacement for thinking. It's really good at pattern matching and generating code based on common scenarios. But if you're doing something genuinely novel or weird, or if you're trying to optimize for a very specific edge case, you still need to understand what you're doing. You can't just blindly trust what an AI generates. You have to read it, understand it, and make sure it actually solves your problem. Think of it like autocomplete on steroids, not a developer you can fire. Also, there's the data privacy angle. When you use Gemini for Firebase, you're sending your code and project information to Google's servers. If you're working on something extremely sensitive, you need to understand that and make sure it aligns with your security policies. Google says they don't use the data for training, but you should always read the terms for your specific situation. Here's what really excites me about this, though. The democratization angle. Building a backend for an app used to require serious technical chops. You needed to understand databases, APIs, security, deployment, all of it. That's a high barrier to entry. But as AI gets better at helping with these things, more people can build. Someone with a great app idea but limited backend experience can now build something that actually works and is actually secure. That's powerful. That's the future of development. The other thing is speed to market. In a competitive landscape, being fast matters. If you can cut your development time by 20, 30, even 50% because you're not spending hours debugging or writing boilerplate, that's a real advantage. You can iterate faster, get feedback from users sooner, and improve your product quicker. So where does this fit in the bigger picture? Google's basically saying, Firebase is already the platform for building apps quickly. Now we're making it even faster with AI. It's a competitive move against AWS and Azure, sure, but it's also a genuine product improvement. And honestly, the other cloud providers are doing similar things. AWS has Code Whisperer. Azure has Copilot. But Gemini for Firebase is specifically designed for Firebase workflows, which means it's more contextual and more useful. Looking ahead, I'd expect this to evolve. Maybe Gemini starts suggesting optimizations based on your actual usage patterns. Maybe it can predict performance issues before they happen. Maybe it can auto-generate tests based on your code. The potential is pretty wild. Here's the bottom line. If you're a developer using Firebase, you should absolutely explore Gemini. It's not going to write your entire app for you, and it's not going to make you skip learning the fundamentals. But it will make you faster, help you avoid common mistakes, and let you focus on the parts of development that actually require human creativity and judgment. And in a world where shipping fast matters, that's a genuine advantage. If you're curious about AI and how it's changing the way we work, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss when we break down the next big thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.